Got the haters.
Tomorrow's fine for shaking the table. Tonight, I'm aiming my lasers. You won't try the fruits of my labor. I heard him like really misbehaving. So sweet to taste, nothing but flavor. Yeah, I enjoy the fruits of my labor. Na 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 na, na 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 na, na 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 na.
The fruits of my labor. We're going to get started early tonight because we have a very special guest joining us on day 16. Is going to come up here. She covered me up with information today that I have little comprehension of, and I've been through it a lot. She is a very kind, very intelligent woman, and anybody that says different can kiss that little brown spot in the middle of my ass, because some of the stuff that she and I talk about are things that matter to us now. I want to take our channel in a little bit different direction, because the things we can change and the things we can't change are important to us now. And it's important that we keep our eye on the prize. And if one of the things we have to do for sure is get involved locally, build our communities back, and know your neighbors, help your neighbors. Doesn't matter if you disagree with your neighbors. On day 16, hello.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Oh, great. Travis?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. I got this working through my laptop, so I can use my microphone. Better connection than I had before.
I crocheted this hat today, by the way.
I noticed it looks almost like a granny square.
I lie like a dog. I
Similar.
didn't
It's a
crochet that.
similar stitch.
It is a handmade hat, though. It was given to me.
You'll have
I
to
just
show them. I texted you a picture of the hat I want to make you. The one I sent you.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
going to be fabulous when I figure. But I'm going to make it in red, white, and blue yarn for you, so you can wear it on your show.
Absolutely. I'll put it on. I'll put it on in the summertime.
So, Travis, did you do your homework and listen to the SCOTUS oral arguments today?
I did. I tried to. One of the things that I have a problem with is they're speaking languages that I don't understand because they're talking around everything. There's nothing literal that they're talking about. It's all scenarios, and I don't understand. I don't comprehend at the level that they're speaking. So I'm depending on you to make this a great show.
Well, I hope I can make some comments that are helpful to people. I'm not I don't practice law, so I don't give legal advice. This is just my analysis. I've studied law. I really have been more involved over the past year and a half, doing more writing than speaking, and writing about the effect that the mandates and how we as a country and all countries, how we've handled COVID has affected us, our communities. That's been more my interest. But I do speak the language that they were speaking today. So if I can be helpful, and maybe we'll talk about, we can kind of jump in wherever you want, but you might have people in your chat who have questions. I know a lot of people were texting me today saying, what does this mean? What are they getting at with it? So maybe you want to start. Do you have anything specific you want me to address off the bat? I have a little outline. I probably took about 15 pages of notes while I was listening to the arguments today. I actually listened to it. It was 2 hours, just on the one case, and I listened to it twice because I wanted to be extra prepared. So I have some things that I think are important to bring up, but it's your show. You're the boss, and you can start by talking about what concerned you about what you heard today, what was confusing, or I know you were on another show tonight. Some of the questions that they raised might be a good starting off point, and then I can kind of launch into my little outline if it's helpful.
Well, you can jump in anytime. Here's my problem with what they did today is okay. I understand those people are the supreme law of the land, and their comprehension level is better, and their the way they put their words out there is different. Okay, to the layman, I'm just no redneck from nowhere. I'm a flatlander. I can't comprehend what they're talking about, and I think that's by design. And it really pisses me off that those people can't be literal. Some of the shit that they were saying was really getting under my skin today, because they didn't address any of the real issues. And I'll give some for instances, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were talking about the people that had 100 people that worked for them. Or let's be specific. The packing houses.
I'm taking notes, by the way. So I'm making a list of here because I want to make sure I address everything you're asking too.
Okay. So they were talking about people that employed 100 people. Okay. I can understand that JB Swift. I'm just going to use that name because I worked for that company for a while. They think that it's okay for them to mandate something that the people don't want, because they're in a controlled environment and they're close and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, one of the things that I was really, really mad about is they didn't talk about the differences between the death rates of being vacationed and not being vacationed. It's literally the same, according to the CDC. And I did not fact check those numbers, but if you'll go to CDC numbers, I believe they're very, very, very close. Okay, so which should we do? Risk ourselves for taking something that we don't believe, or should we risk ourselves for herd immunity? That really pissed me off. They didn't even address it. And I listened to all of the stuff that you sent me, and I had other people send me some stuff too. But I just can't comprehend why they won't talk about the real stuff. It's not the law of the land. Okay, well they claim to be the highest law of the land, D-Dog. If you would like, I'd email you a link, but I don't have your email address. Because yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
And I know, I've watched your show, and I've heard D-Dog on, different channels, and so I understand where he's coming from. Without getting too, into the weeds, the fact is, we have 3 branches of government, correct? And those
That's
are
right.
all, those all, come out, the Constitution provides for those, and we've talked about checks and balances. We don't need to talk about that right now, and I don't want to get sidetracked on that. Okay. Whether you want to go down, the road of, well, they're not the supreme law of the land. Look, there are ways to nullify even a Supreme Court ruling. Okay, they're not beyond checks and balances. Now, that's kind of beyond the scope of our discussion for tonight. Okay, but regardless of where you come down on that issue, and we can debate it and talk about it in a lot of depth, the fact is, what they discussed today, which was an OSHA mandate, will affect 100 million people, probably. I think the number they talked about in the court today was 84 million, but I've read reports 100 million. Let's just say a lot of people. Okay, let's just stipulate to that. Okay, so it is. I was actually going to start the discussion today, but why would we even talk about this ruling, right? Well, it's because if you have a job, well, I'm sure many of your listeners, many people I know, work in big companies. I have friends that work in huge hospitals. I have friends who work for companies, they're teleworking right now, and their companies are saying, well, you need to be vaccinated even though you work at home. You work in a home office because we're over 100 people, and we have to implement that, or we're going to face fines. Now, look, where I stand on many of these issues. I'm conservative, but I want to maybe talk about some of the finer points of what they discussed today and why these issues are important. I was looking, like I said, I had all these notes about that I took, and just things that caught my attention during the arguments. But I was watching some of the recaps on the news, like clips from different news programs, to try to see if there was anything I missed, anything I was way off base in my analysis on. And I saw just a brief clip, and I was trying to find a way to organize all these thoughts that I had while I was watching this. And Jenna Ellis, she's not somebody I follow all the time, but she was being interviewed, I think, on Fox, and she kind of broke down what she saw as the 3 main questions that the court was addressing today. One is, if we're going to mandate vaccines in some kind of health emergency, who should decide it, the federal government or the state? That's a very important question. It's a question that's coming up in other contexts in a very, in-your-face way, especially in the past, since March of 2020. Okay, we're paying attention to that much more, I think, than we have, and certainly more than I have in my lifetime, right? The second question she identified, and this I don't think her list is exhaustive because I have a whole other list too. I don't know more than her. I just picked up on other things. The second question, and this was one that the justices, I don't know if you heard them talk about this, but when does the emergency end? Well, that's a really relevant question, not just having to do with this OSHA mandate. A lot of us are facing it in our own states. My governor, his emergency powers, he's extended them, I don't know, like 6 times. His current powers expire on February 15th, and he's talking about renewing them again, even into next fall. Okay. So
Wow.
that same issue that's coming up in the context of the OSHA mandate is an important question that we're facing at a local level. Okay. Whether we like it or not, we're facing it. And the third question that she identified is who's going to be harmed. Remember that what they're debating today is whether or not to issue or to maintain the stay on the enforcement of the mandate. They haven't even gotten close to ruling on the merits of whether or not it's constitutional. And I believe it was Justice Breyer today who actually raised that point, and he was talking about vaccine in general, like the power of a state or a federal government mandating a vaccine in whatever setting. And he actually said, he not that he let it slip, but he said, the question of whether it's constitutional at all in a case like this is something we haven't gotten to, but we will. Okay. So whatever the court decides, like the decision in this point in the mandate situation is still only, they're arguing all that hot air today. I swear sometimes they're paid by the word, honestly. I agree with you. That was all about whether or not to impose a stay, which means you can't enforce this until we get further clarification. Okay. And that's what they were talking about. I would say we need to back up a little bit too and talk about the use of the word mandate, because that came up during the discussion. So what is the stay about? What is OSHA trying to implement? Is it a mandate?
Yes.
Well,
It's not law. It's not law.
Well, I'm going to be a little more technical here because I think it's important, right? What OSHA is imposing on businesses with over 100 employees through this, what we're talking about here, is called an emergency temporary standard. Okay? In the media and in, our discussions around the coffee table or at the gym or wherever, meeting up with your friends, we're referring to it as a mandate. But it's an ETS, emergency temporary standard. That opens up a whole can of worms. And that's what they were getting into during the discussion today. The word emergency, temporary, okay, and standard. That one they didn't discuss specifically. But the very first justice to chime in with a question today was Clarence Thomas. And he started to kind of poke, right, about what do we mean by an emergency, okay? Amy Coney Barrett brought it up probably an hour and a half into the arguments, and she asked the question, which is a question I think all of us have, which is, how long is this emergency going to last? She said, we're 2 years in. Are we going to be talking 2 years from now about whether or not it's proper to keep this in place? Those are important questions. So, hidden in all the verbiage today are questions that are not only critical to clarify, but they're coming up at the state level as well. And, one of the big questions is, and they kind of, the attorneys and several of the justices, basically said, well, we question whether or not a mandate like this mandate, there's that word again. Okay, what does that mean, right? But whether or not a requirement, a vaccine requirement, let's call it that instead of a mandate, because mandate is kind of a tricky word, right? They question whether or not the federal government is the proper authority for even doing something like, assuming we have an emergency, assuming we have this grave situation.
But
The
according to
attorneys,
some of those justices, this is an emergency and we're killing people. Why? Listen to some of that.
well, I told you,
You know what? But at some point, when are they going to take our personal choice away from us? And they didn't address that either. They just bounced around. They talked about procedures and they talked about this. They talked about that. I was so mad by the second hour that I couldn't even see straight, because
the only justice who even addressed the fact that can I say vaccine, or I don't want to get you thrown off YouTube. The only one who acknowledged that a vaccine, that there are risks and benefits with a vaccine was Justice Gorsuch. And he said, his reservations about this are that you're asking, it's different than OSHA saying, well, you have to wear a hard hat, okay, at a construction site, because you could get, I don't know, a beam could fall on your head or whatever. Vaccine is a whole different situation, right? Because people have different health concerns, and a vaccine has risk. Wearing a hard hat, or protective equipment when you're working with machinery or whatever, I can't think of a good example, but those things don't have the potential to harm you. A vaccine could, and and it was funny because he knew that the press was going to pick up on this and was going to, roast him for even suggesting that something might have a side effect. But he said you have to acknowledge the fact that that's a possibility. But he was the only one who talked about that, okay, which was a good thing. And I was like, oh yeah, finally somebody's, even considering that. But you heard what you heard, and I think what you were reacting to, and a lot of people commented on this, was you saw how politicized the virus has become. When I heard Justice Breyer, he was throwing out numbers. If you heard him, he's like, the way he was talking, he was like the guy in the grocery store who's wearing a space suit and and 17 masks still, because everybody's going to die. That's how he sounded. Okay. Just histrionics. Okay. You kind of know where he's going to fall on this. Everyone's going to die unless they get the jab. That was, he came out, right away, right out of the gate. So, and the numbers they were giving, basically, Justice Sotomayor, she basically said that, look, we have to have this OSHA rule, because we need to protect people from all these irresponsible people who will not go out and get the vaccine and who are endangering others. Okay. But right. as the arguments went on, they had to acknowledge, when they got the Solicitor General, she sounds very young, but she was the one who argued the Mississippi case. She had to admit that one of the justices asked her, who are we really talking about? Who is this aimed at? And she had to admit that this rule was targeted at unvaccinated people to protect them. And the assumption in the whole argument was that the vaccine works. It was the best strategy. And there was very little conversation, except from Justice Gorsuch, and a few moments in the conversation where there was acknowledgement that maybe the science that they were basing this on
I might have some too.
was a little questionable.
Don't do mine.
Huh?
You don't have to do mine for get some change.
I'm looking at the chat too. I see a comment in the chat about going through OSHA, giving the government a workaround. You know, in other words, like they're kind of circumventing things to try to get this mandate in. And surprisingly, it was Justice Roberts who pointed that out. And he said, it's like, you know, what are you guys doing? I mean, it seems pretty obvious what's going on here. It's like, well, even if we shoot down the OSHA thing, you're going to try to backdoor it through another program, you know, like through the Head Start program or another agency or DHS or whatever. And, you know, I kind of made it clear that the judges knew what was going on. That was the maneuver, and he called them out for it, which was interesting because, you know, I know a lot of people in your chat, you know, Justice Roberts may not be their favorite person, but he did make that point, and it was a valid one. And it was, you know, I don't know how he'll end up voting on this, but it showed that he was at least considering it, and it was an important point, you know. How am I doing?
You're doing fine. But something I want to talk about is because the EP or the what is it? OSHA is technically not constitutional in my mind. There's nothing that says that they have the authority to do anything.
Well, one of the
if you're in here, I will absolutely send you a link. I'll email it to Deanna and she'll email it to you because I don't think it's constitutional for OSHA to impose anything on us. And why are they giving them the power? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to mute myself so I don't interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. I don't know why any entity thinks that they can overstep our government. That pisses me off.
Well, so the question is, you know, where does OSHA get the authority to do this kind of thing, or where does any agency?
From the federal government, of course.
Right. Well, OSHA and the DHS or all of these government agencies basically get their congressional creations, basically. So Congress has certain oversight authority, legislative authority, and what they do is they outsource it. So they create an agency, okay, and they give it power because, you know, whatever, it's not a very convincing argument. They've got too much to do, or they've you know, whatever. There's no question the government has grown to, like, you know, this bloated thing. But OSHA and all these agencies, where they get their, I don't want to say mandate because I don't want to confuse the use of the term there, but where do they get their authority? It's power that's delegated from Congress to these agencies. Okay. Now, one of the things you might have heard, and it came up early in the argument, they were arguing, and this is kind of a lawyer thing, and it's definitely a Supreme Court thing. There's a thing called the major questions doctrine, and you might have heard them going back and forth on it. I think Judge Kavanaugh was talking about it most. But they were asking the question, does the major questions doctrine apply? And what that is certain it's the idea that certain questions are so politically or economically or socially important that they can't be delegated to a statutory agency like OSHA. In other words, if you're going to have something like, so the argument that they were trying to make was that if you were going to mandate vaccines for a population, especially a group this large, it's such an important question that it has to be something that Congress comes up with some kind of legislation about, and then the court can rule on that. But you can't do it through an agency. And they've not invoked this doctrine very often, but they have when the issue was as significant as this. So the lawyers were arguing that it should apply, and that you can't require these things through OSHA. It has to go through Congress. Congress has to enact some legislation. They need to not be, excuse my French, but not be chicken shit about it. Take the political heat if that's what it comes to, and pass legislation, which then people can in turn litigate and challenge at the Supreme Court. So there was a question in this of whether they were trying to get around that, and Kavanaugh was kind of on that point. I think it was Justice Kagan was saying, well, they can do this, and if people don't like it, they can just vote people out and get things changed through OSHA. That's the wrong approach. That's not the way it should be done. It should, if there is authority to mandate something like this vaccine on a large scale, I would go along with the line of reasoning that Kavanaugh raised, which is it has to be done legislatively, and then we can fight about whether the legislation is constitutional or not, because that is the function of the Supreme Court. Okay, they don't make law. I think somebody said, heard it said in another program, well, Supreme Court doesn't make law. Yeah, we know that. Their job is to determine whether a law that's passed is constitutional. That's their job. So they need to stay in their lane.
I think Mary's got a really good comment up there on the screen. She says, "My question is why will they not give us the medicine that will keep us from dying?" In India is one, and it cured them. No one died. They took it away from us. That's exactly right. There's a lot of things that our government has done to us that is wrong. That's my opinion. What can we do about it? Vote them out. The way you vote them out, you got to start at the bottom. You can't start at the top. You can't stop a traffic jam from the front end. You have to stop it from the back end and divert it. Just like
Well, I
being
think
they don't give you something to throw up. They give you something to push out. I know that
well, I
sounds
think
awful.
we've already seen with the monoclonal antibodies, for example. There's been quite a difference of how they're handled and made available in some states versus the other. We're having this argument in my state. I live in Connecticut. My governor wants you to get that shot, okay? And there's no, he's not hearing any of it. And so Mary's question is a question that people in my state are asking. Bottom line, we've seen, it's kind of, this is a larger issue, and it's not something that we can solve with a Supreme Court case. It's something that needs to be solved by us getting involved locally and fixing our state legislatures and stuff. But look at how the idea of public health and the authority of a public health officer has just run wild since March 2020. When your life, I mean, we're probably, I don't know, I think we're the same age, similar generation anyway. When in your life has...
Pissed off Tyrone says that been told my whole life to vote him out. When has that worked out? Or when did that work? It doesn't. We have to get involved locally, and we have to push our influence from the bottom to the top. That's my opinion. If you don't know who your sheriff is and find out if he's a constitutional sheriff, that's where we start. I'm sorry, Joy, I didn't mean to interrupt you at all, because I know you're on a roll of bigger and better things. But I'm watching the chat, and the chat is upset, and I get it. Get involved. I talk to somebody every day that I don't know. Just happens. I talk to them about the problems that we have in America, the things that are going on, and what can we do to fix them. And the only way to fix it is from the top up, because there ain't nobody gonna fix anything from the top down. Those people have too much money and too much power. Am I correct or wrong?
Well, I think I I'm as frustrated as everybody else is. I mean, I live, you know, what's going on in my state is outrageous. Okay, and my governor actually today. Now we're 2 years into this pandemic. He issued guidelines today, or a mandate, I guess. He wants to force hospitals to accept COVID positive patients, hospitals and care facilities. Now, you want to talk about Groundhog Day? Isn't that what we were all upset with Cuomo about? Um, so I hear the frustration. I'm going to wait for Travis to come back because there's something I want to address with him, and it's come up on other programs. I'm afraid if I don't say anything, someone was going to come on here and take over. I'm reading the chat to see if there's other questions, but I have a point I want to make, and I want to see what Travis has to say about it. But just to follow up on the question about, why don't they give us these treatments? I don't have a good answer for that other than that the system is very corrupt from top to bottom. There's no denying that. But Travis, you and I have talked about this. So the question is, what do we do, right? Now, some people say, look, I'm done. None of this is constitutional. All these agencies are full of it, and it's none of it is. I've heard the legal versus lawful question. I've heard that all raised, but I want to make sure I was in. But the fact is,
I didn't bring it in.
I thought I did.
I don't think you did. Sorry, you go ahead. I had me muted.
Okay. No, I want to make sure you hear this because we've talked about this. So I know there are people that watch your show that say, look, we got to just throw the whole system out. I'm gonna, and I know I'm familiar with what the affidavit, I'm familiar with what they're doing, the affidavit mamas and all that. I have a little bit different take. I've read in chat, not here, not tonight, but I've read on other programs and things. Well, anybody who's went to law school or knows about this stuff is just brainwashed. I'm not brainwashed. To some extent, if you want to fix the system, you need to team up with people who know the system and work on it from within. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as like the expression goes. So there's something that has to be like a happy medium somewhere. And I get the frustration. Look, there are all kinds of problems with elections in my state and with corruption. We could do a 10-hour show every night about that. But you can't, you're not going to get really anywhere unless you have to, I don't want to use like the wrong metaphor, but it's like infiltration from within, right? You have to get in the system. You have to know the system to know what needs to be fixed. And then you have to roll up your sleeves and work with other people and do it. I think that's just my approach. I think it's more sensible. And I think it makes more sense.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're in South. So I'm looking at Olivia T. So she's in South Carolina. I've heard the protocols in the hospitals are different, obviously, depending on the state. Now, we can go back to the beginning of the pandemic. I know I'm going to get in trouble for using that word. But whatever. I'm going to use.
You said a whole bunch of trigger words tonight. It's probably going to take you down.
I'm triggering everybody. I'm trying to help, not to trigger people, but that's okay. Well, let's just say since March 2020, right? I have things about this pandemic that I voted for Trump, but I'm upset with him about. He closed down the economy. He didn't fire Anthony Fauci. There are a lot of things. Okay, so there's a lot of responsibility for this mess to go around. Okay. And I understand. I was watching things very closely. I had COVID in April 2020. And I think I might have told this story on your show before, but I was in isolation for 10 weeks. And, I had friends that worked at a very prominent hospital who told me, don't let them bring you in because you will not come home. They will put you on a ventilator. Okay. So I was really paying attention to these things. And I think one of the things Trump did correctly, it's kind of a double-edged sword. He was clear from the beginning that the states needed to handle their own business. He was very cognizant of states' rights versus federal. Okay, I think I'm not saying it was perfect. Don't misunderstand me, but I think he had that right in some ways. But there's a danger with that.
That goes right along with what you're talking about. He was told to shut down the economy. He didn't want to. One of the things, and one of the things that I'm going to believe till the day I die, unless somebody changes my mind, it was all about taking out the little guys. They don't want those little people to even have anything. We could go into a whole world of just Sara Nasara, but I want to stick to this because this is important, and people don't realize, people are not paying attention to the things that we should be paying attention to. Am I correct? Because this hearing today was huge, and all they did was blah blah blah. They didn't pick the right. In my mind, I'm a dummy. I probably have a ninth grade reading level, maybe. But I'm telling you, I could have asked those people way better questions than they were asking. And it pisses me off that we have to listen to these overexposed motherfuckers paid hundreds of $1,000s a year to talk about things that don't matter to me.
Well, I'm going to play mediator here for a second and try to, calm this down here. But nothing was solved today, obviously. I mean, they haven't issued their ruling either. But some of I would say, if you kind of listened read between the lines, but listen between the lines, some of the discussion today and the questioning today raised some very important issues. Now, I don't know that they're necessarily going to be issues that we're going to solve right now. I don't know that we'll solve them after the midterms, but these are hot issues that are going to take us now into the midterm elections. And by the way, you got to vote. You can't stay home and say, I give up. You have to vote. You have to be involved. Walking away and just saying the system sucks, it's corrupt. We know it's corrupt, but it's what we got. So roll your sleeves up, get involved, find out who is running. If there's nobody, there are seats in my state that were the state legislature seats where Democrats have run unopposed. That can't happen. Okay, so I'm going to just some of the questions that came up. Here's an example. This is just one example because I have a list and I know you got to sleep tonight. I do too. But the whole idea of under what authority might you mandate something like a vaccine? Justice Sotomayor kept referring to police powers. Okay. And the lawyer corrected her and he goes, well, I thought OSHA was, OSHA mandates or OSHA regulations are more properly thought of as regulating commerce, like that aspect. Okay, that makes a big difference. Think about what we've been through for the past 2 years. Do you want to conceptualize mandates in public health as being something about regulating commerce or as a police power? Well, I don't want to think about it as a police power in my state because I know what my state is capable of. Okay. The way we talk about it and the way that the justices talked about it, and the differences between them, what was coming out were some of the debates that we're all having. So they're important issues. So just because they didn't solve anything, and it did sound, like a lot of legal jargon and gobbledygook, if you really listened, and you kind of stuck with it, and I had to listen to it twice myself. Okay, so I didn't pick up everything the first time. What you were hearing were some of the major debates of the day, and things that we are going to have to, if they kick this back to the states, we're going to be having these same arguments in our state legislatures. So it's important to get the right people in, because these issues are not going to go away, even if we get a favorable ruling from SCOTUS on this case. Yes, yes, you may talk. Sorry,
well,
I'm going to mute.
but that would be a huge thing if they will push it back to the states. Then we have some influence because we're working from the bottom up.
Well, we have influence, yes, and we also there's a risk there too. There's a risk.
I actually know some state legislators in my state, and I can influence them. Maybe not a lot. I mean, I'm nobody. Wow, we have 310 people in chat. That's awesome.
Join the club. I'm nobody too.
I didn't know there were that many people in here. I just looked up. Thank you guys for coming. I'm nobody. I'm a dumb redneck from Panhandle of Oklahoma. I invited this young lady on here that is way smarter than I am, because she wants to pick apart this stuff. All I do is add fuel to her energy. She is such a kind person. Thank you, Joy. I really appreciate your company all the time. She and I are actually friends. I call us friends. But we want to make a difference in the world. And the only way we're going to make a difference in the world is pay attention to everything and help. And if I'm wrong, correct me anytime.
Well, and again, it's kind of good news, bad news as far as kicking it back to the states. I think that's the way it should be. I think I'm more of a states' rights, small federal government person. I think that was the intention of founding fathers. I think that's the constitutional way.
Oh, you found it? Oh, the dog's in check. She ate her bag.
That's your co-host. But I think, I call my state is kind of like a fear bubble. The way that it's the COVID has been managed to destroy small business and to crush the kids in our state, even the vaccinated kids. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into
I can't believe
whether that's right or wrong. I'm just going to leave it to that's your choice about your own child. But the kids who've got the vaccine, they still are forced to wear masks in school. That's not science, okay? So when you say leave it to the states, a person living in my state is like, oh no, that's not a great thing. If you live in a state in like Florida, or if Kristi Noem happens to be your governor, you're breathing a sigh of relief, and those governors are fighting for your rights. But it's not like that in every state. So we have, in a blue state, quote unquote, like mine, we have a lot more work to do. We have really got to take this next election deadly seriously. Have I bored everybody yet?
I don't think so. We'll drop the link though.
Yeah, I had like a lot of, like I said, I kind of had a running commentary list. I mean, there were some things that were said during this by the justices that were absolutely shocking. And there was one, I'm looking for it because, and you probably saw it on some of the newsreels, but it was Justice Sotomayor. And the reason it's interesting, it just kind of gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here. They were talking about OSHA, and typically OSHA regulations have to do with specific things that are threats in the workplace, okay? Like a piece of machinery that spits out flames, okay, or emits like vapors or something like that. We're not, OSHA wasn't designed to manage risks that are out there in everyday human contact, right? You know, I mean, COVID is, it's in your coffee shop, it's in your groceries, you know what I mean? Like OSHA can't be in charge of the world, you know, well, presumably. Um, and they were talking about that, and her quote was, and I want to get it right here. She said, is why is a human not like a machine spewing out bloodborne pathogens?" Now, you know, to me, like, how do you even start picking apart that statement? Silver Girl says, no help in Washington. We can't access legislatures. Silver Girl, we're having the same problem in my state. I mentioned before that my governor is seeking a renewal of his emergency powers.
Right there, right here.
Basically, our legislature has given up. They've abdicated responsibility. They're not meeting. They're not voting on anything. They are letting the governor run our state by executive order. Everything is on Zoom. We do have some attorneys in this state who are challenging the constitutionality of Zoom meetings as kind of a violation of due process, among other things. But I hear you, because we are having the same thing. You know, it's like, what good is, and again, I hear the frustration. What good is getting involved locally when you can't even find our legislature is in hiding. And I think they're gonna let the governor renew his emergency powers again. So, you know, we have to be more creative with how we address these things.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm looking at chat to see what else. So anyway, so the comment, you were distracted, but you know, that comment by Sotomayor that that humans, she compared human beings to machines that are spewing out pathogens. To me, that's a really dark and kind of frightening way to be thinking about human beings. And that's the kind of thing that got me involved in you know, even considering doing things like podcasting or anything, because I'm seeing those I'm sensitive to those kinds of
Okay, well,
linguistic turns. Travis is multitasking. I'm going to read the chat and see if anybody has any comments.
sorry, I'm here.
That's okay.
Mainly,
It's your show.
mainly
You are in
pissed off.
charge. You're in charge.
This can be your show. If I cover my microphone up or my camera up, please. I think you're very intelligent and bring a lot to the table. And I trust
Well,
you. I will leave you. I will leave you in my stream to run my stream.
no, I don't
I
know.
ain't gonna tell you.
No, thank you. But I will say, you know, I watch a lot of shows, and I'm up late at night because I can't sleep. I wonder why. You know, and for me, like, I like talking about this topic because it's something that is I don't want to say verifiable, but it actually happened. So we can talk about what happened at the Supreme Court. We can talk about what was said, what was not said, and it's stuff that, you know, we can have different opinions about, but it's right there. You know, it's something something real. That's what I talk about. So. Oh, here Kathy H has a question. Do I think the hearing was scripted? I don't think it was scripted, but I will say it was very clear. The only thing that even sounded, I don't think it was scripted, but the so there were three liberal justices that basically they weren't talking science. They were trying to make claims about, like, we got to follow they didn't say it this way, but we got to follow the science. And vaccination is the right, it's the best approach for OSHA. And when I listened to Breyer, to Sotomayor, and to Kagan, it was like listening to CNN. Okay, because it was all the talking points. So I don't think it was scripted. I just think that they're kind of uh, a lot of what they were saying was not really rooted in anything other than it sounded like talking points to me. From what I understand, there were pages and pages of, and this always happens with a case, like any case, but especially a Supreme Court case. There was a lot of studies and data appended to the pleadings in this case. And it wasn't the liberal justices who were bringing up some of the facts and some of the studies that were cited. It was the more conservative judges, and one of them that they cited. So the liberal wing of the court was like, the vaccines are effective, and that's the end of the story. And it came out towards the end of the session. They cited one of the studies that was submitted to the court, and it compared vaccinated people over a certain age, and don't quote me, I think it was like over the age of 80, but like older, like an older demographic who were vaccinated versus a younger group that was unvaccinated. And they found that the transmission rate and the infection rate was higher in the vaxxed older population than in the young unvaxxed. So, that cuts against the argument for a mandate like that. But the liberal justices, they wanted to move on from that point. They were very, wedded to their ideology, let's put it that way. And we know that there's a lot of activism on the court, and we can't really get away from that.
Right. Purple crayons, what's up, brother?
Not much. One.
What?
Oh, there he is.
Hey, I got my shirt on tonight, by golly.
What's it
I'm left
say?
out.
Says if my patriotic kill or hurt your feelings, then fuck off.
I'm the only person on the panel without a beard. So I feel left out.
Social or sarcasm, it's what I do best.
Travis, did we have a conversation about sarcasm today?
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't we have a discussion about that?
We did. Okay, so D-Dog, I need to know how to get the CPS out of my daughter's life.
Has she screwed up and signed a paper yet?
One, not the other. I can fix one problem, not the other one.
Well, just demand a court of record, because it's not even a court.
But we get no lights tonight. Are we not special enough to get the lights?
Just, are they dragging you guys into court or no?
They're making her go to court for nothing.
That's fine. Demand a court of record.
Okay.
Because CPS is family court, and that's not even a court. It's a legislative tribunal, and the judge is nothing but a hearing officer, and everybody gets paid.
Okay.
It's just a criminal organization.
Oh, I agree. I actually saw your stuff in chat last night. I put it up. $80,000 to $144,000 a year per child that they take away from the families. Well, we're in a unique situation because our family will take care of our children. We don't need CPS to get involved.
Right.
It's none of their fucking business. These are our kids, my family's kids. Ain't nobody gonna hurt them kids. We already took care of that. But now they're all of a sudden pushing her around about doing this, doing that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm done with it.
Well, go to my playlist, CPS and Family Court, and watch the first video, and then you'll see where you stand.
Okay.
I think it's like 25 minutes or something.
Okay.
So how are you doing one day?
I'm fine. I think this is the first time we've been on panel together, although I've seen you on a lot of the shows that I watch. So it's nice to meet you finally.
Handshake, okay.
Well, I think we're coming at it from a different, we have a different approach to these things, but I think we all have the same goal, really, to fix. I think about the system, and I'm not really an insider. I'm kind of like I'm like I philosophical about it, but I know how the system works, again, I've studied, when Travis, when you said, they're speaking like a different language, it just so happens that I understand the language they're speaking. Now, it doesn't mean I agree with everything that was said. There was plenty. I talk about being triggered. I was triggered listening to the oral arguments today, and I thought that the one attorney in the OSHA, there were two cases that were argued today. I really listened to the OSHA one more than the second. But there was a missed opportunity, and so here I am. I'm like critiquing the lawyer's performance, but he said some. They were asking him, and I wrote it down. They wanted. So one of the questions they asked him at first was, well, who's going to be harmed? Like, who's going to be harmed by this mandate if we don't issue a stay? And he said, well, businesses are going to shut down, everybody's going to quit. And he was hung up on this idea of attrition. So, like, in other words, this was going to make difficult for businesses. And he missed the big point, which is you can't undo a vaccine. Okay.
Right.
So you can't get it wrong, because vaccine, once you get the shot, that's not something you can do. And later someone actually helped him out. I think might have been Kavanaugh, or it was one of the conservative justices, and he kind of like helped the guy out and said, look, if we have you wear a protective gear on the floor, a shop floor somewhere under OSHA, that's something you can take off and leave at the door and you go home. You can't leave a vaccine on the shop floor. That's with you everywhere. So it's a different kind of case. So the lawyers were sloppy today. That was my impression of things.
Okay, one day, can we change one thing? That we just use the letter V.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't want to get. Travis will forgive me if I don't want you to get taken down, but I'm not giving any. I'm just kind of recapping what happened on the arguments today. So yeah, no misinformation intended.
But all this came from the Supreme Court hearings. So I think if we're echoing their sentiments, I don't see any reason that YouTube should take me down.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. And I'm usually speak in code because I really respect your. I don't want anyone's channel to get taken down because of me. But it's hard to speak in code. The justices didn't. I mean, they talked about. I'm just kind of recapping what happened, but I'll try. Forgive me, Travis. Forgive me if you get a strike. You can blame it on me. You can sue me.
I've never had a strike. And as long as we're not giving medical information, what do they call it? I did get one taken down because they said we were giving medical advice. We're not giving medical advice. All we're talking about is what the Supreme Court talked about today. I've only had one I've only had one. Oh, they tried to strike me, and I appealed it. They retracted it, and they still won't let me go back on the other channel.
Right, and
I don't care.
what I
It's
just
okay.
paraphrased about the I've heard it called the Jabberdoodle, the Jabberwocky, the Jabadoo, um, the shot,
The
okay?
Terminator.
The Terminator, the clot shot.
Terminator's a good one.
Um, um, what I just said and what I just paraphrased, I was paraphrasing one of a Supreme Court justice. So just FYI, you two, um,
Yeah.
that was the point that I think it was Gorsuch. It was one. I think it was. I can't remember now. Um, my notes are all over the place now, but I was paraphrasing what he said during the argument. So just to be clear, algorithms and censors.
I gave you the only thing I had.
Well, I think both attorneys that were presenting their cases missed two key things that would have helped them a lot. Okay. One day, how much legal schooling or anything do you have?
I have a law degree.
Okay. Okay.
But I don't practice. I don't give legal advice. I do not practice. I'm on here as just a commentator with some background, okay, and I'm just giving my commentary and opinion.
Okay.
Well,
And my opinion
before
is
you
that they
before you
missed
dig in,
real big with 16 AM jurisprudence second section 98, where no emergency anything can sidestep the Constitution.
And they talked about that, and I believe it was there were several justices who acknowledge that, and it's something it's a really important point, and it's I think something like in the vernacular, the person when you go in the grocery store and they're like, put your mask on, it's a law, it's a law. They have no concept of this, okay? And for what it's worth, and you and I probably have a different opinion on the uh, Supreme Court justices, but they did acknowledge it, and I don't think it was talked about enough today. Justice Thomas was the one who he raised the issue of an emergency right off the bat, and of course
Right.
this raises a larger issue. Um, the use of emergency and states of emergency at the federal and at the state level is completely out of control, and has been for a long time. It's just that it's more in our face right now because it's affecting us. Like I said, going to the grocery store or trying to go to work now. But they've been using states of emergency to do all kinds of unconstitutional things for a very long time. I think you and I probably agree on that. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think that that's one of the use.
I've been studying up on this for 20 years, and I've been in the fight real heavy for 5.
Yeah. So, it's just intensified probably since COVID, and I think it's more people are seeing it now. I think, I talked in a previous podcast I did about, like kind of when I started paying attention to these issues, and it was 9/11 was an eye opener in part because living on the East Coast, and I live basically, right on the train line into New York City. So it affected us differently. I had, um, but the things that were done under the Patriot Act, we're talking about a similar or analogous situation going. We're right in the thick of it now. And so we have to get engaged because what they want to do is things under the guise of public health that are just unimaginable. And this is just tip of the iceberg. I think we agree on that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And instead of Marbury versus Madison, I put a better case in for that one.
absolutely, go right ahead.
Thank you, Annie A says this is the best show ever, Travis. See, you should have me on more often.
How about
I'm
you
glad to
join
get
me a
your
couple?
ratings up. I'll take cash donations, you know.
Hey, we'll put your cash up there, app up there. I'm okay with that.
No,
How
thank
about
you.
come on with me a couple nights a week? D Dog, you want to
You
do a couple nights a week?
I I don't know what I'm doing from minute to minute. My phone rings and I have to go. You know that.
It's all good.
I will say, you know, this case, a lot of people are talking about this case, and as you know, D-Dog, the um, all this case is doing is creating hundreds more cases to be litigated. This is just one emergency temporary standard for OSHA. Uh, we haven't gotten to some of the state cases where they try to implement um, certain things. We this is just a small piece of a very big puzzle. So you know, I maybe some of your audience might be like, why are they wasting time on this? Because this stuff is going to come up again. It's going to be like
And again,
whack-a-mole, right? It's
and
going to come
again,
up
and
and
again.
again, and there's going to be, and I some of the ones I can think of. So now they're probably they will push. I mean, in my state, we already have a vaccine passport. It's voluntary right now. Well, how long do you think that's going to last? Okay, uh, they will push, and so maybe this OSHA mandate gets struck down. Well, they'll try to do something for domestic travel, maybe a mandate there. I'm not saying that they're going to succeed. I'm saying it's going to come up. So we need to know what the issues are and know what the arguments are and know how the justices have come to their reasoning so we can have some kind of idea of where they're going to go when it comes up. There's going to be, I guarantee, there's going to be some businessman who travels internationally for business and doesn't want to get the shot and wants to travel on an airplane is going to sue over that. That's just one example. You know, you probably think of 100 other ones.
Hmm.
Um, Whack-a-mole.
So one day, if you don't mind, what state are you in?
I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have any sheriffs.
Right, they got rid of them, and I forget when exactly. It's a mess, and so we have one candidate now. We talk about getting involved locally. So this talk about, kind of triggered something in my mind when I was listening to the arguments today, because they said, well, look, you know, um, they kind of indicated that they'll probably kick it back to the states. Now, my state is the kind of state that will institute all kinds of abominations legislatively by executive. They don't care. It's completely lawless here.
Hmm.
Now, we do have a candidate, and I don't have your contact information, but I can give you. I can probably get it from Travis or put it in private chat. But we do have a candidate here who is uh, very he's one of the he's had hundreds of pro se actions against judges in our state, and he is working on holding the judicial branch in this state accountable, even in the absence of uh, of sheriffs. Forget about constitutional sheriffs. We don't have sheriffs at all in our state,
Right.
so um, it's a sticky situation, and he's working on two things which I find really interesting. Well, he's running for he is trying to be the Republican candidate against Richard Blumenthal. And any of you who are into politics know that Richard Blumenthal has to be replaced. Okay. And it's not just a matter of life or death for Connecticut. He writes legislation like the HR1, and some of the most atrocious legislation that's going to affect all of you. So, oh, I see your email there. I'm going to send you a link to his YouTube channel because he is um, trying to do some of the things you're attempting in a very difficult situation here. So I think you will enjoy his videos. And I actually contacted him. I'm going to be walking, knocking doors, can't helping him. But he's fighting the GOP. The GOP chair basically is threatening him, and it's a big mess in the state. That's all I can say. It's maybe not as bad as California, but I wonder.
No, they have sheriffs, and they actually have some super good constitutional sheriffs in California. Connecticut's just screwed up.
Well, I have a theory, and I don't think I'm too far off. And this is something I want to work with. This I'll give you the guys' information. I don't want to. I won't say here, but
Put it
I
in
want
writing.
him. Yeah, I'm gonna multitask here, but
Yeah.
he has done so much research on the corruption here, but especially on our senators. And I really feel like Connecticut, we're a small state, just like a little tiny postage stamp. I want him to do a show, and I actually might ask him to do a podcast with me about why what's going on in Connecticut is something that all of you in other states need to be paying attention to, because our state and the things that are happening here are so unconstitutional, so let's just say unconstitutional, that I almost feel like our state is kind of a test case for things they would love to roll out nationwide. I think that would be a great show. Maybe I don't know if he would come on your show, Travis, but maybe he would record something with me because I'm local. But there was an Epic Times article about how every elected senator, representative, our governor in our state are all owned by the CCP.
Yeah.
And it certainly makes sense if you took a ride around my neighborhood. Well, not in my neighborhood per se, but I live, close to the belly of the beast. Let's put it that way. So, yeah. So you're right. You've done your homework on Connecticut. It's a cautionary tale. Let's put it that way.
But I also make a statement, and I'll stand by it, that every single person that's been elected to a position that is sworn an oath has violated that oath within the first 24 hours of being in office.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I don't know how much I don't want to get in trouble on here, but my governor, they say that this is a blue state, okay, and most people you talk to will say, oh, you come from Connecticut, that's a deep blue state.
It's not.
It's debatable. If you talk to people who grew up here, and when I'm not from here, I grew up in Illinois, which has its own problems, right? But it's a little more normal than here. But when I moved to Connecticut, it was more of an independent. We had an independent governor. We were getting tax rebates because we had budget surpluses. And then things changed, and all of a sudden it was a deep blue state. If you talk to people who grew up here, that's how you know it's not a red state. Now, I happen to live in a town that it's unusual. I have a state representative and a state senator who are both Republican and who know me by name, send me handwritten cards at Christmas, check in with me, and are very good. But that's not the norm here. And I'm going to, the gentleman I'm talking about, I'll let you watch his videos and I think you'll find them informative, but he's connected all the dots as to how this state has flipped. It's very interesting. And again, it's something for you in red states to be wary of and to watch for some of the things that are happening. Connecticut has hedge funds and things where, the money flows through here. Let's put it that way. A lot of federal money. So
Yep.
James Comey was from Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
hmm So it's not a good situation. I don't mean to. I didn't come on to bash Connecticut, but it's an example. And all those things that triggered me listening to the Supreme Court. These are issues that are going to come up in the state. They can strike down the OSHA mandate. It's going to come up in the state legislature. Um, my days are numbered in this state, so hopefully some of it will roll out after I make my escape. But still, I still care about. I still my own property here. It affects me.
Yeah, I see Supreme Court. Well, they're chicken to put their opinion out on anything. And I see it going back to the states, and it depends what state you're in for which way it's going to go. But your sheriff can still stand up along with the county supervisors and nullify it in their county.
We have a little bit.
Well, I'm in Michigan.
Okay. I think the mindset there is a little bit different. Better. It's better than here. Let's put it that way. Where we live, and Connecticut is basically the entire state is basically a New York City suburb, and it's becoming more so that because my governor is in lockstep with whoever the governor of New York is, and that has not served us well. Michigan, I love the Midwest. Midwesterners have a little more common sense. so, and even when I was visited my mother last year, I was in Chicago area. The problem there is Chicago, big city, because the rest of the state, people are pretty normal, and they closed down indoor dining at Thanksgiving, which is when I was visiting. And my mother, she's very active and she's used to getting out, whatever. The restaurants in her town told the governor to pound sand, and they opened. It was 2019. Okay, I didn't want to come home because that wasn't happening here. So I think Midwesterners are a little more on the ball when it comes to that. And what's funny because and I get it is like Constitution state, but they sure don't act like it.
No.
Irony.
And if you look at state constitutions, I think the only state constitution that has more authority and power for the people than Connecticut is New Hampshire.
Yeah, well, New Hampshire is the place to be if you're in New England, that's for sure. I don't know if you know about the Free State Project, but that's literally a grassroots. Do you know about it?
No, it's just I go through the Bill of Rights for every state.
Well, this is not really, it's not a political group, but it's a group of people. It's kind of it's grassroots, but they literally recruit other freedom-minded people to move to New Hampshire to keep it free. I have friends who they live in Connecticut, but they've purchased houses in New Hampshire to retire, and they're like, every time a property comes up, they call me and say, like, look, you're looking to move. You know what I mean? So they're like literally, there's nothing, it's like very grassroots of trying to keep that state free. And it's easy drive for me to go from here to New Hampshire, and it's like being in a different world. It's amazing. So
right. And to who's that half-assed gaming, New Hampshire has two crappy senators because the 17th Amendment is actually illegal. The state legislature is supposed to pick out the senators that they send to DC.
Yeah, they do, and they're the way that their local politics is conducted is very different than here. It's more they retain a lot more power locally. and you can tell because even during COVID, um, we would I didn't, but there were people who they would escape and go there because they were like little normal pockets within
Hmm.
all this New England dystopia. Um, so yeah, so it's interesting. And now Connecticut is weird too because uh, one of the things that I work on a lot, and I work with activists about parental rights. Um, so there's Connecticut's interesting because they during COVID the legislature they found a reason to meet. What was their reason? They got together to vote and take away the religious exemption for vaccines or jabber duties or whatever.
Yeah, those.
For those things. um, for for in schools, okay, that they could figure out. But ironically, Connecticut has some of the most permissive laws for homeschooling. We could do a whole show on that. So you wouldn't think that in this blue kind of communist state that it would be homeschooling friendly, but it is. And so now one of the things we have to be vigilant about is because people have been so uh, disgusted with public schools, especially during COVID, we got our eyes on it because they're going to go after homeschooling rights. So that's the next fight we have. So we have, um, I think that is a battle that's looming. Fortunately, my kids will be out of the school system by that point. Thank God, but it's still an important fight.
Well, do you know the easiest way to get change in your school?
What's that?
Defund them.
Yeah,
Yep.
And
that's
the
the easiest way
easiest
to change
one
anything.
is the easiest way to defund a public school is on September 17th, if they don't teach the Constitution, Public Law 108-47, right there, states that if they don't teach the Constitution on that one day, um, that they lose funding for the year. Another way to defund them, if the board doesn't listen to you, the first Tuesday of October and the first Tuesday of February, keep your kid home, take them shopping or anything else, because that is the federal attendance day for them to get their funding.
Yeah, well, another way. It's been an interesting conversation here. My kids, I bankrupt myself to send them to Catholic school. So
Mhm.
they don't go to public school. Um, but I'm in the Northeast, so the Catholic schools are woke, so that's another whole problem, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm very unhappy about that at the moment. Um, but it's funny. My governor and the teachers union here they're getting nervous because there's been a mass exodus out of the schools, and so people, if you withdraw your child, then they don't get whatever the amount is per child, and they're losing money. And so um, parents are realizing that, and they're kind of like realizing that power of the purse and that they do have a little bit of leverage there. And, we see all kinds of alternative schools popping up, learning pods. We have a lot of Yale uh, professors who are just, offering their services, being hired as tutors. We've seen all kinds of hybrid arrangements. So that's been encouraging. It's a long time coming in
Right.
this state.
Plus, Hillsdale College also has a K-12 class online.
Yes, they
Yes.
do. Yes, they do. So, I have not homeschooled my kids, but one of my best friends she's a homeschool activist, so she's been in this fight forever. And someday we'll talk about. There was a grab for homeschooling rights some years ago when I don't want to like bring up a controversial topic, but when the Newtown situation happened, um, the perpetrator was homeschooled, and so they kind of used it as a pretense to go after homeschooling rights. And there was one attorney in particular who I'm going to try to get on my podcast someday. This is, I'm, when I have time, quote unquote. And she single-handedly uh, uh, kept the state at bay and helped us preserve those homeschooling rights in the state. But it was a battle. It's called follow the money. It's always follow the money. Everything is follow the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you take the money out till the end, you're either going to come out at Vanguard Group or the BlackRock, one of the two.
Right, because they control most of the money in the world.
Well,
Yeah.
BlackRock, their GDP is $9 trillion a year. And if they were a country, they would have the third largest GDP in the world.
Yes. They have
Yeah,
more
and-
money than most governments.
And the things that we just talked about the past, few minutes, I mean, this is why we have to keep things like the Supreme Court decision in perspective, because yes, it's important, and yes, it's going to affect people. And we try to read the tea leaves of which way it's going to go, but it's really all it's really doing. It's kind of like creating there's going to be a whole slew of litigation like on different points regarding it, but our real fight really is local. It's really at the state level. And I talked about, most people are focused on Senate seats, and who's gonna run for governor, who's gonna run for Senate seats. You should also know who's running for AG in your state, because if you look at the red states and how they have fought back against some of this federal overreach, it's been the AG's office that is kind of the choke point for that. So that's a very powerful position, as powerful or maybe more powerful than who your governor is. It's another example of why my state is in deep trouble.
The sheriffs are really stepping up big time. And every time the sheriff has fought the government on a constitutional issue, the sheriff has won.
I think, I don't know as much about it. I will say, I think it also is dependent on what part of the country you're in, because there's something about the mentality here that people, it's like they kind of like being ruled. I don't like, there's no, and I'm not saying, like take to the street. I'm not saying to like do anything radical. It's just they anybody who is for individual rights in any way, or like standing up to like overreach of the state, or when we lost the religious exemption for vaccines, people were just like, oh, that's just the way it is, roll over. So even if we had sheriffs, I don't know, I wonder, would anybody in the state actually utilize them? I think it's a legitimate question just based on what I've seen. But Travis, we've also talked about the red state, blue state. Like, well, I've heard people say, not in this channel, but I've heard people say, well, you people in the blue states, you got what you voted for. Well, first of all, I don't know if we voted for it, half of the people we have, but if we have a terrible senator, or we have, like, I'll give you an example, Dick Blumenthal, they get on very powerful committees in Congress, and those blue state senators and representatives, they write legislation that's going to affect you in the red state. So we have to kind of think beyond that red blue divide. We really do. And we have to just get on the right side of issues and support each other. And not, we can't take that attitude of, well, you Californians, that's why there's not a geographic cure. You can flee California, you can flee Connecticut, you can flee a blue state. But if you don't address the problem, it's like a cancer. It's going to find you. So, I think when we talk about, Travis, you talk about unity all the time. I think we have to think out of the box, and that we have to stop thinking about those kind of arbitrary divisions, because I live in a blue state, but I'm not, you hear me, I'm not down with that. And I also, just because I live here doesn't mean I don't have constitutional rights. So we have to support each other. We have constitutional rights, whether we live in a state that's violating them or not. So we need to come to each other's assistance, in fighting these things. I don't want to put it too strongly, but I think we need to think about ourselves as citizens.
I think that the point you're trying to make is right. We all have to stick together, whether we disagree or not. Doesn't matter. We have to find the common goal, and we have to stick together on the common goal. And I need you to explain to me, and you'll have to do it 3 more times, because I don't want CPS touching my family anymore. I'm done with that. I want to take them out. CPS can kiss my ass.
Travis, just start at that playlist and watch what's in there. Okay. And that'll answer 99% of your questions, and I'll fill in what I can after that.
All right. And I actually got your email address and stuff tonight. So, and I will reach out, because I want to make a difference in our world. I really do.
Well, Travis, you said, you would have me on again. And I think maybe we just do like a once a week, at least, check in on what we're finding. I think everybody has something to contribute locally.
Absolutely.
Okay. Like I said, I found someone who I think is, he's done his homework, and he's really wants to fix things in our state, and he's running for, like I said, he's running to be state senator, not state senator, U.S. senator from Connecticut. So I called him, I left him a message, and I think I'm going to be door knocking for him. That's one thing I can do. No, it's not like, not for everybody, but it's something I know about, something I've done. Anything, big or small, that you can do is better than sitting on your hands. I know people are frustrated. I am too. But the more we just complain about it and do nothing, D-Dog, you have your piece. There are people in our state, Travis, who are taking on CPS head on, and so that's their piece. And so, anything I can do to support them, that's fine. That's not really my fight. I have other things that I'm parental rights is kind of our thing. So, maybe we'll do once a week. We can do a check-in and have people call in and tell us what they've done in their state, because, maybe there are other ideas out there that are working, and some things are working and some things won't work, but maybe we can share. That might be, a positive way to approach this, because it's not one size fits all either. Every region of the country is different. I approach things. I'm a parent, so I have my own concerns and perspective on things that other people don't. I have friends who are very involved with the Second Amendment issues, so that's their piece, and I support them. I don't really, I'm not really active in those groups, but they know who I am, and they know we meet and support each other, and so that might be an idea for the show. I know you're kind of doing some new things on your show. That would be something I would be interested in, and just not even being on the panel, but just hearing people talk about.
Well, you're always welcome on panel. We'll call every night ladies' night if you'll come up, because I think you have a lot to offer. I think that you and D-Dog can settle some differences between having a law uh, degree and not having a law degree, because I think that somebody from the inside can help somebody from the outside work the system. Am I correct?
I think it's just two different routes to the same goal. So we don't really have. I don't really have. We don't have a.
I,
We don't have a
I
beef.
don't see
We
any
just.
problem with anything between her opinion and
No.
mine.
Yeah, we have the same opinion. I think we just. It's kind of like. You know.
But now we
It's
have
kind of like,
somebody on.
how do we do it?
But now we have two people on the same side. How about that? That's awesome to me.
I
Yeah.
think we were always on the same side, and our paths just haven't crossed.
No,
The
because
only
I've been kind
difference
of a
is
spectator.
only difference I think is she's looking at it in a legal aspect because of her schooling and her law degree, where I'm looking at it a lawful thing because of my history background and my constitutional knowledge.
Fair
That's what
enough.
I think the only difference really is.
And I mean, I will be the first to tell you, in law school, the way they teach constitutional law is completely useless. I mean,
Yes.
I'm humble enough to say that. I mean, they make you read cases. I think my constitutional law professor, all he did was tell stories about his glory days as a law clerk for I forget who now. That didn't really anything I learned about constitutional law. I learned, just from being involved, like in local politics, really, or just being involved in issues or studying up on it or reading up on it. And I don't, like I said, I don't have clients, so I don't practice. Um, but it can be very useful knowledge. And certainly if you have to go up against someone with power, you have to speak truth to power. It does help to speak their language. It doesn't hurt. Like um, um, it's a useful tool, but it's not for everybody. So, and we all have the same goal. So I've seen you on panels so many times, and I've just been more of a spectator. But Travis, for some reason, invites me to come on here. Every night's ladies' night on here. So I hope I didn't bore your audience tonight.
Oh, I thought we had a great discussion. We had more people in here than we've ever had on this channel.
We should do more often.
Absolutely. You're welcome every night.
We don't have to talk about court cases. There's going to be, believe me, there's going to be so much coming up. I think we can talk about the 2022 election. There's a lot to talk about there, and not like, Mr. T. That's a side issue. Really talking about who the candidates are. And I was watching a video. There's an elephant in the room, right, in blue states, that the big cities kind of steer how the elections are going to go. And I've been looking for, and I think I found someone who is in my state who is actually talking about how do we address that and how do we fix that? Because if you can fix that, you can fix, what's wrong with the elections in a state like mine. So those are the kinds of things I think would be helpful for people to talk about. I don't know what D-Dog thinks, but
He's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the erection
Cam,
thing.
yeah. Cam, Cam 2 signal's bad. We got you up here. You're just a black screen. Can you guys see?
All I see is a black box.
Okay.
I see someone's face, but it's frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, but
and I'll admit, as far as the election goes, I have my moments where I feel like, what's the point? I'm just gonna throw like, it doesn't matter. So I need to be kind of like, not brought back in, but I do think it's worth being in the fight. But that's just me.
Yeah, the things that myself and my group concentrate mostly on is anything having to do with the 10th Amendment. You know, I'm trying to get sovereignty back to the states. The 17th Amendment, that's got to be crushed because the states don't have a voice in DC anymore until we get rid of the 17th Amendment. That's two of the big things I'm working on. The Johnson Act, get that nullified in the states so that it frees up churches to be able to preach the gospel instead of just like 10-20% of the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Travis D-Dog and I don't we agree. I think he's you know, like that's his piece of it. You know what I mean? That's where that's
Howdy,
his
folks.
part of the fight, you know. Hello.
Hey, what's up, discernment? We can hear you. And I agree with you. Here's my thing. This is where we can have
I'm in the chat.
talk about everything. Maybe not.
Now I really have a complex because it's 3 bearded men on the panel and me. It's
Yeah,
obviously not ladies' night.
I'm a little warm around the edges. I had to cut down a goddamn tree today. It had poison oak all over it. And I'm not allergic to poison oak or poison ivy. So I'm a little warm. I'm not used to carrying that heavy, majestic oak. Heavy stuff.
I'm not sure
From
what he
the
said.
last storm. But nobody would touch it. You get this. That same tree, right? The same job I just did for $100. A guy quoted her 800, and another guy quoted her for the whole tree to come down $5,000. This thing ain't even.
That's insane.
Even 50 feet tall. 5,000. Unreal.
What's up, Cam?
What
Hey,
does
how you
that
doing?
mean? Can I ask a question in chat? Garrett says discernment, hook 'em. What does that mean?
He
What's
must be
that?
a Texan. He must be a Texan.
Oh,
Texas.
I don't know what
Wow,
that means.
Beach, Texas. Nobody comes into my neighborhood. Scared.
For
Can everybody
everybody,
hear me?
how'd that work out for you? Go ahead, Cam.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Kids,
Yes, sir. Cam.
kids pedal fast by
Oh,
my
okay.
house. No,
Hey,
I'm just making that up. I'm just saying that. I'm not the old.
Go ahead, Cam.
no, I seen you over on Liberty Warrior on Mike's channel,
Yes, sir.
and I just seen you tonight. There's two things I wanted to talk about. I was trying to get on Mike, but I sent him an email. Michael Gale told me to reach out to him, but I hear you guys talking about CPS, and I live that personal nightmare every day, and I was like, wow, somebody who's making or talking about that issue, because I'm a firm believer that, you know, the school system and anybody who doesn't believe that the CPS is directly linked to the school system, they work in tandem. They're basically grooming our kids
Yes.
in the schools, and I didn't know there was any problem until about 2 years into my son going to middle school. And I live in a rural place, so if you think that living in the country or living, you know, I live in East Central Indiana, very rural, very conservative. But you got to understand, there's still those liberal teachers, there's still those liberal principals and guidance counselors and social, you know what I mean? And I never paid much attention to it. My son came, you know, he would come home and say, Dad, the teacher is asking us questions. They're pulling us aside and they're asking, uh, how do your parents punish you? I think one day it was, you know what I'm saying? It was, how do your parents punish you? You know? And obviously, as adults, we understand that it's not about the punishing. It's not a curriculum. They're documenting and they're trying to find out more about your household using your children. And I never paid too much attention to it. And the reason I want to talk to CPS because it is a dangerous damn thing. My son now, he got arrested, taken to, I don't know what it's called, but it's like kids jail. From that step forward, he went to a psych ward for 9 days. And my son hasn't been home since. And he's turns 18 this year. And wow. It all started in school, him coming home saying, Dad, they're asking me, you know, what kind of punishment? He said, yeah, my dad whoops my butt sometimes, but I deserve it. This is exactly what he said, you know. And next thing I know, I've got 2 cop cars in my driveway and a white Ford Taurus. So I had the sheriff's department along with 2 CPS agents coming into my home. I had no choice to let them in my home or not. They had a warrant from a judge. And you speaking about CPS, that's exactly what happened to me. And my son still hasn't been home. So this is the first night I've watched your channel, but I live it every day. My son's still not home.
Painful.
You know,
it's painful to hear. It's painful to hear that they got your damn son and doing that. You know, that's your job. Oh, what business is it theirs?
Well, that's what they're doing. Is this is part of a much deeper agenda. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but
yes, we do.
This is not about telling me how to parent. This is about disqualifying us as parents because the government believes that, hey, we can raise your children better than you can. They're creating
1,000 times. They've said it 1,000 times, Cam. 1,000
They're
times.
creating a new generation of a voter base for them. They're creating that socialist Marxist movement. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here. And just to say that I
wouldn't say too much.
Right. Well, I had a bigger YouTube. Yeah.
Well, it's very
about this right now is either way, you're not fathering your child. Whether it's by paperwork, whether it's by any excuse they make or a new damn law, you know what I'm saying? The end result's still the same. You're not with your kid, right? Right now?
What, do I have him?
Yeah.
No, he's in a state facility.
I rest my case. Does it really matter how we got there? I'm sure they can make up 100 different reasons at CPS. We all know they're dirty, make up lies, just like their master, Satan.
Right. Well, yeah.
Excuse.
I basically had a channel that was almost 2,000. I had a channel that was almost 2,000 subscribers. It took me about a year and a little over a year and a half to grow it. And the day before yesterday, YouTube took my channel down permanently. No explanation. I had no strikes. So I'm basically, you know, I've been trying my best to do my part and get the truth out there to people. I was in DC during that date. That's all I'll say there. I've called senators. I've done interviews with congressmen. You know, I've talked to sheriff's department, state police. You know, the problem is, and I didn't mean to offend anybody in the chat. When I say that all this talking does nothing, that's because I literally live it. A bunch of people talking doesn't do anything unless the people are willing to take that verbal suggestion and physically roll it down the road.
That's right.
I'm surprised you're keeping your composure, actually, because if it was my kid, oh, let me tell you what, it'd be Tasmanian devil coming through the door. I wouldn't care. I'd be on it.
Right. Well, basically, we need to be willing to use, and I know you know a lot of people are like, oh, we don't want to stoop to the liberals level, but that's what we're not understanding as a conservative base. We're stuck in complacency.
Yep.
I agree.
We're stuck in this complacent thought process.
We don't listen to each other.
We're stuck in this complacent thought process that Donald Trump or the 2022 midterms are going to fix this. Guys, they're nominating and electing Supreme Court justices at a faster rate than Trump did. They're gonna fix the system as much as they can before they go. I'm not saying we won't come out of this, but it's going to take a hell of a lot longer. We need to start standing up and doing physical things, talking to the senators, going out and protesting. You know, I don't know, man.
I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't think the 2020 midterms per se are going to fix anything. But
2022
we do need to get involved with who is being elected in our states. Okay, I'm not talking about whether Trump runs in 2024 really doesn't matter, and it shouldn't really matter. Who my state senators are, who my state legislatures are, matters. Okay, and like for instance, my state senator, my state representative, they have weekly meetings at the local diner. Okay, I go to those because I want them to know me, because I'm going to come back for the next one and I'm going to say, well, I asked you about X, Y, and Z. What are you doing about it? And I'm following up. That's what needs to happen. So I'm not, I don't mean to suggest that, like the 2020 midterms, even if we have a red wave, well,
we're just forcing the opposition to comply for 4 years. That's how I look at it. It's a social problem. It's a societal cancer. Voting somebody in doesn't take away somebody wanting to dye their hair pink and run around in social justice warrior in the streets and set dumpsters on fire.
Well, it also takes when something comes home from school. Now, my kids I have 2 in college and one who's, she's dry. She's old. I'm almost out of the school system. Okay. But
thank God, right?
You have no idea. I think it's 513 days, but who's counting? I mean, that's literally where I'm at, because I've had it, and they're in private. She's in private school, and I'm still like that. So if she was in public, it would be more. But what it takes is when the school sends home some stupid form where they ask you what kind of light bulbs you have, what do you have, when they do these inventories, you need to say, okay, hon, you're not going to do that homework. I'm going to go in, and you make an appointment and you talk to the teacher and say, what is this all about? And you call them on it. You know what I mean? Like, you need to do stuff like that. All along at every step of the way. I think that's kind of what you're talking about. And that's just one example. But you can't just say, oh, well, look at the schools indoctrinating the kids. No, you have to step in and assert your authority as a parent.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm just saying that this problem is going to take a hell of a lot more than everybody just talking about it. Like, we're to a point now that the Democratic National Committee knows they've got the upper hand. They know they can push us and how far they can push us. They know at what point we're going to stand up and kick back. And at this point, we're not even there yet. So, it's like,
have like the GOP in my state is, they're failing. Okay. So, like, you think this is a golden opportunity. There's so much dissatisfaction we should be able to get. They don't want to hear from good candidates. They're actually working against the kind of candidates we need. So, my call on Monday needs to be, I heard the GOP chair in my state being interviewed saying some things which were outrageous. Okay. So what I need to do, not that the GOP can fix it, but I need him to know that I saw that, I heard it, and it needs to get turned around. And don't send me letters asking for donations or whatever, because they're not coming. Okay. Little things like that. You need to go to school board meetings. I mean, we saw that in Virginia. Okay. you need to be present for those things. I go to school board meetings and my kids aren't even in the public schools, okay? Because I care about these issues. I go to town meetings. I sign the little form and they put me on the agenda and I speak. And
Right.
maybe half the people, who knows, they're probably laughing at me behind my back or whatever. But if it's a zoning issue, any of those things, you need to speak up and you need to be seen. You can't hide behind a keyboard. That's for sure.
Well, another thing I want to say, and then I'll get off here and let you guys go. People are asking where my channel is. I don't know if I'm allowed to drop that info, Trav. I don't do that on people's channels unless they give me permission.
Drop it in the private chat. I'll share it. My mods will blow it up. I promise you.
Well, I don't know. I'm not very technical. When I did my YouTube channel, it was literally a boom mic and a webcam, and I sat there and I. So when it comes to like sharing all this stuff, you guys are probably way smarter. But my channel name is CamTube, KAMTUBE, all one word, and the K is capital and the T is capital. Everything else lowercase. So CamTube.
Yeah.
And what's your main topic? Like, what's your main?
I just started that channel because they removed my big channel. Like I've been on Liberty Warrior. I've been on. You guys heard of Officer Tatum? I've been on Officer Tatum's channel. I've been on High Impact Flicks. I've been on several big channels. But they took my channel down no reason. Like I just did.
Welcome to my world.
This is the second channel they've removed, and all they say is your content is. I was talking about 5'7". I won't say the real word here, and just a warning to you guys: 5'7" is a trigger word now. Not 5'7", but what I'm talking about. Seventh letter in the alphabet. The day after I did a video on that, gone. I mean, not remove the video. My channel is gone. So this other channel I'm doing now, it's the same name, but I really haven't figured out a topic. I think I'm going to get back out and do more interviews like I did before. You know, like I went to Washington, D.C., I've been to Indianapolis. I'd go to the militia, the militia gatherings. I really haven't honed into what I want to do now. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I don't have a better answer, but the channel's there for the people that are asking. But
well, I hope you keep watching this channel and stay tuned, because I think past few live streams on here, we've really gotten into some good issues and found a lot of common ground. So and I like nice civil conversation, which was what we had tonight. So
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I liked it. I found Travis over on Liberty Warrior, and I was like, I like that guy, man. He's like down to earth. Just what we need is more people like Travis, more people like me, more people like you. You know, right. I like Steve Crowder.
Real people. Amen, brother. Amen, brother. Preach it.
People relate to everyday normal people. People relate to everyday normal people. You know what I mean? People living in these issues. And
I'm literally a soccer mom. I'm like the most normal soccer mom. I don't have an agenda. I have a YouTube channel. I have never put a video on it. I'm not selling any books. I'm not doing, but I do care about these issues. And I think, the past couple of years have been very isolating for people. We've been, our communities are shattered, really. And I'm talking about my church community. I was I volunteered at my kids' school. That's been shattered. So we're all kind of rebuilding and reconnecting with people. And so when you can do it in a civil way, even if it's on a live stream like that, I think it's a step, So.
Well, the content I do know that I'm going to do is I did Bible studies on my other channel quite often. And most of my subscribers that still know where my channel is, they've been requesting, why don't we just do a Bible channel? And because at the end of the day, that's the only solution for us, is putting your faith in that, being the example that you want other people to adopt. being the change that you want to see in the world. And
Be the
you know what I
change
mean?
you want to see in the world. Thank you.
Yeah,
That is a
we've
profound
got to
statement.
do that.
No true words, you're doing fine, bro.
Yep. I think that's
Believe
what
in
I want to
Jesus.
do. But that's what I want to
Believe
do
in
too.
Jesus, you got no freaking worries.
I don't want.
Trav, you
I
said
don't
you
want.
want to do Bible channel?
I don't want any recognition for change in the world.
We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to.
Yeah,
And you
we
look at a lot of these
aspire
people that
everything.
are up and coming today, and that's all they're doing is they're plugging products to the audience. They're
We're
selling to the audience. They're not
That's
giving any
pathetic.
substance. They're selling.
It's pathetic. The whole fucking thing's pathetic. That's the only adjective I can fucking come to my mind every time I think about it. And when it comes to kids, I don't mean to get all riled up, but when anything about kids, my blood pressure really goes quick, like a
Right.
freaking steam engine.
Well, me too. And for I'm a parent. I care about this stuff.
hang on.
Sorry.
Hang on.
Man,
Apparently, we're
there's a
getting
lot to talk about. We got a lot bigger fish to fry. We just got a law, we'd probably solve a lot more problems, but these social circles put up these walls and, you know, us and them, you know, because you know him, you're them. You're going to build a house, you need a good foundation. We need to tear down some walls, start over.
Right.
That's what I got to say.
I agree 100%. And that's basically what I mean. Some people in the chat were like, well, speaking out is standing up. Yes, I get that, but we're in a new chapter in American history.
Well, for some people,
we got to step up our game now. We've got
Everybody knows that.
people.
We either work together or we go down to.
Right.
Hang on.
for some people, you know, speaking up is
Continue.
what it's like the part that they can play. I think part of it is that we have to have each other's back too.
Yeah.
We can't there's not a infighting isn't going to help. And you know, we have to accept that you know some people, like I said, everybody has their piece of it, you know. But what the left is really good at doing is
Dividing
even when someone on their team does something horrible, they have each other's back, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm just saying
Whereas
that's
on
how
the
they win.
conservative side, if I'm not a diehard Trump supporter, even though I'm a Republican voter, or if I don't believe in QAnon, I get rejected.
Correct.
Right.
The conservative party is so fractured by who your candidate is, what your view on Trump is. I'm going to be honest right now. I don't like Trump's view on a couple of things, and I did a video on it. His own statement a couple of weeks ago made me very skeptical of him. I won't go into more detail because I don't want the channel to get in trouble, but if you look at
I think as conservatives, we have to ask ourselves a very fundamental question, which is what are we conserving? Okay, that the answer
it should be the Constitution and civil rights.
Well, if we can answer those
cultism around a
questions or
candidate.
at least have the conversation about them, then we can unite around something. Okay.
Right.
But we don't. We have to. We're bad at kind of defining it, you know. And someone will say, "Well, are you far right or are you right or whatever?" And, you know, often I'll say I'm conservative, but I have to ask myself
I'm a constitutionalist.
that question. Okay.
I'm a constitutionalist. Wherever that lies, the name doesn't matter so much to me. The affiliation, the cult that I'm in, doesn't matter to me. Do you support the Constitution? Because it literally covers every freedom we have. You know,
we talk about fighting authoritarianism, and that's been, you know, kind of front and center. You know, everybody in the past 2 years, how many times have I heard the word tyranny? Well, we also we can't be tyrants either. We can't police what people, you know, we can't we can't become conservative tyrants either. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
No. Let me interrupt. Let me interrupt and say something.
I'm a free human. How about that?
This,
You got 10
this
laws. We can remember 10 laws, right? I'm a free human,
let,
and I follow 10 laws. They're divine.
let me say
Or
something.
big. Keep it simple.
Let me say something. U.S. Army vet here. I'm going to tell you something right now. The speech that this a-hole did, Potato Head, he called on war. Mr. T and the support. There is no Democrat. There's no Republican parties anymore. We are in trouble. That's just the way it's going to have to be. The military split. Our country is split. Everything is split. It doesn't matter if you stay a blue state, you wear the face diaper or not, get the Jabberwocky or not. It's all fucked up. And tyranny is coming. And that's when it says in the middle of it about the motion to stand up. When protesting is ineffective.
Right.
Plain. There's two states that I know right now. I could tell you right now, Orlando, Florida, and Houston, Texas has got a lot of militia right now. I know them. They're personally. Okay.
That's my home state, Florida. Yeah.
One of them is Jeremy Lickett. He's District 7 running for Congress. Okay. Let me tell you, he's self-defense obstacle course, and he's Army, ex-MD, and a former cop, but etc. He's got, man, thousands militia attended. Let me tell you something. He's on the internet and everything. Jeremy Lickett, just type his name in. Type it in. They're after him. Yeah, he's on Patriot Roundtable. Speaks a lot of it. What that man did, 46 of this dipshit mashed potato said, he basically called war within our own country. Listen to his speech. The reason why I ran across the speech is because Newsmax played it. I can't stand to listen to him. I can't see any of those fools. They're all demons. They're the garbage. They're tearing this country apart. That speech, he basically called war within our country.
Both sides.
He basically did that.
Both sides are doing that. Tennessee.
Listen to him.
Both sides are doing that. Both sides are doing that to him.
Exactly, Travis. That's why I'm an independent. I don't give a fuck about Republicans. I don't give a fuck about Democrats. I don't give a shit about the patriots like you and I. That's it. These assholes you vote in, they're not going to do a damn thing. I don't care if you got 4 law degrees. These people are going to take money. They're going to take power over the people any day of the fucking week. That's it.
Whoa. First of all,
I'm sorry. I like the guy.
First of all, I didn't say anything.
That's kind of that's kind of like that big ball energy we need.
Cut it. Let her talk.
Whoa.
Go ahead.
I just, right before you spoke, I believe I said that we need to unite, whether we call it conservative, what we call, because we're all like-minded. So please understand. I'm calling for unity. So we're on the same page with that. So I just want to clarify that. And I don't dismiss anybody because of what they do. Travis and I are very, very different people, but
I'm known Travis.
Right.
I have. I agree with you 1,000%, but doing something on paper, it's ineffective. You forgot.
Well, I go and knock on doors with conservative people who are holding judges accountable. So I don't just do things on paper. So I just want to really clarify that.
Bad
example. Let me give you an example of a liberal county my mother was killed in. My mother was killed in a car accident.
Xbox, any control, anything with a
that was investigating everything, let this guy go scot-free. Why? He was an illegal immigrant.
What's that called?
Okay?
Can I say something about Trump? This is right on this topic.
I don't remember. Yeah, well.
Go ahead.
Okay, go
If I
right
can say
ahead.
something about this goes right on this topic.
It's like a PS4 controller.
When Trump was
Somebody
asked,
feedback somewhere. Hang on.
would he go after HB, Hunter B, if he was in the presidency again?
Got it.
His exact quote was, "I don't want to hurt a family." This guy is supposed to go after these people. He is part of our defense. He's the commander in chief. If he doesn't go after and pull that plug, then draining the swamp will never happen.
Right.
I believe that that's the key to draining at least part of the swamp. I'm not talking about violence. I never promote violence. Do I think there's a point where? Do I think there's a point where it's appropriate? Yes. I don't think we're there yet. When I mean resisting, I mean enough of us aren't standing up saying, we're not doing this. My wife's an RN. You know why they had to go to religious exemption? Because not enough of them in the hospital would stand up and say, we're not doing it. If you're going to fire one of us, you're going to have to fire all of us. You put them that type of ultimatum, you will find yourself on the victorious side.
I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example.
Hang on. I don't know why we're echoing again.
It's got him muted.
Right,
Okay.
Jay, they may have threatened Trump, but the point is if you're going to take the job as commander in chief and you're going to take the oath of the Constitution, you ought to know that's a danger that comes to you.
Hang on.
Hey, what's up?
If we haven't heard from Hawkeye yet.
I'm gonna talk.
Hey, I just wanted to say something.
No. Stop. Wait. Stop. I'll mute everybody. I don't care.
No, I was just going to say.
Hawkeye hasn't had one word in here.
Cool.
Tired of echo.
You got me muted.
I got you. I get you unmuted now. Sorry.
Okay, so I watch your channel, but I typically wouldn't think about coming on your channel because a lot of the stuff I heard was conspiracy stuff, and I'm a Republican. I'm like on day 16. I go knock on doors. I ran for city council. I looked at everything that was going on. Running for city council or running for your board of supervisors is only one level away from a congressman. Okay, so you are that close to people that are in Washington. So I own a restaurant, and it's very difficult for a business owner. It's very difficult for a business owner to actually run in politics. But I took the chance and did it. We have to work from within. We have to knock on the doors. We have to run for city council. We have to get off our asses and look at our cable guide and find out where our city council meetings are on television. And as boring as hell as they are to watch, we got to watch them. We got to see what people are doing in our area because we can affect change in our area. Okay. But I can't affect change in Virginia. I can't affect change in Arizona, but I can affect change in Iowa. At my restaurant, I have met every presidential candidate in the last 20 years. They have come to my restaurant, both sides, except for Hillary Clinton. Okay. But I've met everybody on both sides, got great information from all of them. I'm just like on day 16. I'll go knock on doors. When I was running for city council, I had people knock on doors for me. When you talk about militia, here's a reloader, guys. I got more guns than most people have ever seen. I have RC planes. I have ham radio. I have all this stuff. I know what all you guys are talking about. You gotta get involved. Just like on day 16 says, you gotta get off your friggin' asses and get involved. Being on YouTube, typing something in a chat isn't gonna get anywhere. It's preaching to the choir. When I talk to any one of you guys on this panel, I'm just preaching to the choir. Okay, but if I get out and actually look what's going on and I live my town is blue as hell. It was harder than hell to run for city council in this area, but my state is red.
Why was it hard? Why was it hard to run for city council?
Because that carries over. That carries over from every part of politics. Your area, all politics is local. Okay, so if your local politics is blue, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle if you're red. Okay, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And here's what you got to realize.
I think he muted himself.
I don't know, but
and the previous administration, they're going to allow this woman to run again if pieces fall into place. How corrupt is this? No matter how much you try to do with paper in your own community is good, but the main swamp is so infected, they're going to let this woman run again. If Biden if he can't cut the chase, they're going to let her run again. This is how bad the corruption is. It's this, dude. It's all about money and the story. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, you're a female vice president, you're a president, you're a transgender, you got all kinds of wonderful operations on you. It don't matter. It's all about this. A transgender probably could run president and win if he had the money Trump had. I guarantee you that. But Trump won because of his honesty, and he loves his country for what he did for us. He's the only true president other than Ronald Reagan. That's it. These other fools, they're all in the mix, in the pot. Until we get the college campuses are primarily responsible for forming and grooming the next generation. Would you agree? Would you agree? The college.
I do agree, but you are not giving me any solution to this. That's what pisses me off. Give me a friggin' solution that you can do.
Well, let me hear it.
Can I say something?
Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
We're going to translate the
Solution.
so
I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Let one day 16 talk.
Somebody else's goddamn YouTube. Sorry, I said that word. Somebody's YouTube gone. You can hear me.
I got an earpiece, so it's not me.
All right,
My YouTube's not on, so.
Don't worry, I'll find it.
Yeah, turn off the YouTube and then that'll take care of that feedback. That's better.
Can I get it?
That sounds much
I
better.
do know that everybody having their mics on will cause interference because I do Zoom chats quite a bit. If like 6, 7 people have their mic on, it will cause interference. So if you're not talking, like I've had mine muted the whole time, just waiting on everybody else. So Just that's all I know.
Can I say something, Travis?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Your
so
floor.
I understand the frustration. Believe me, about the current president, and his vice president, and I hear all that. When we talk about, we need to do something, we need to stand up. Here's some of my frustration. When Biden got in, and again, they started up with the variants of the sickness, okay? The media started talking about, well, what's going to happen if we lock down? What if he's going to lock down the country again? And I heard people who are, I thought were like-minded, conservative, saying, "Oh no, here we go again. He's going to lock down again." Well, the way to stand up, you don't have to do anything dramatic. Keep your business open and say, "No, we're not doing lockdown again." This idea of locking down an economy or telling me that I'm a not I and I had a business that's been destroyed by my governor, okay? So I know what I'm talking about. You can't even get people in my state to say, hell no, I'm not shutting down my business again. That's a place to start. Okay. So, is it Cam? So you were talking about, things you can do to stand up. That's pretty basic. And you had people on our side saying, oh, what are we going to do if he shuts us down again? No, the answer is we don't shut down again. Okay. That's the kind of, talk about resistance. That's pretty basic. It's not violent, and it's standing up for your constitutional rights. And you can't even get people to do that.
That's what I'm talking about. Not to interrupt you, but I wasn't talking about violence. So I'm sorry if that's the way it came off.
No. I'm saying I agree with you. I think I got the sense that that's where you were going.
Yes,
what I just said. Yeah.
What frustrates me, and I'll use even YouTube as an example. Okay, I'll be as quick as I can. It always makes me nervous being a guest on a show because you feel like you're in this horrible hurry. And I think that causes a lot of miscommunication between a lot of us too, as we feel like we're in a hurry, people talking over each other, you can't get out, you know what I mean? But I'll use YouTube as an example. When a YouTuber's out here and they're trying to give the truth to people, they're trying to get out there. I've been the YouTuber with the monetized channel that lost it for nothing. And at the end of the day, you feel like, where's my support system? Where are the people backing me? You're putting yourself on the front lines. You're going to these dangerous protests. You're giving them footage. You're giving them truth. It's the same as being a business owner watching other business owners cower down, right?
Yep.
They don't get the basic thing. You have to stand up. You have to be willing to get handcuffs put on your wrist to save your business. Because I'll tell you this much right now. It's going to end up that way anyway if you don't. Look at Australia. Look at Australia. Too many people are afraid to walk into the school and say, you're not teaching my kid that crap.
They've already given their kids their crap.
So it makes the one parent that says that a criminal, while the other 300 parents stand on the back burner or in the sidelines where they really need their support. If 301 people went up there and did that, they'd have no choice but to change it. Don't believe me? Look at the school over there in Portsmouth, Ohio. 248 parents came to the school board and said, you are not teaching CRT. And the district court said, we're not going to do it. It was proof that people standing united, regardless if you love Trump, DeSantis, Ted Cruz, drop that crap. You like QAnon? Fine. I don't. But that doesn't mean we all can't go to the school together and say we love and care about our kids. We love our small business.
And that's why when we're
going to stand up together.
Well, and so when I say our communities are broken, it's kind of what I mean, because it just described my life. If you speak up. And if you talk about these issues, and if you say things like, my governor has no business telling me for 2 years now, when I can and can't operate a business, and all that stuff, and your own neighbors and your own your own colleagues and people in your school don't back you up. You just described my life. Okay, so when I talk about unity, I'm talking and having each other's back. I'm talking about, this is just one example, but you want to close my business down, not only am I not closing it, but all my friends are going to show up there and they're going to support me. You know what I mean? That's what we should be doing, and that's what has failed for 2 years now. That's just my opinion.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think that you're a great American for doing it. It's just that's it. That's really all I had to say, guys. And I'll leave you guys alone. It's time to stand up, and that's what I mean by it. It's time to stand up. It's time. It's time to stand together. Stand up. Stop sitting in your house. Stop being a keyboard warrior. Start a movement. Start a peaceful movement. Get up. Show support. Stop going to Walmart.
Cam, I talk to somebody every day that I don't know about things that are going on. They don't understand it. I truly want it. I'm moving from place to place to place to place. I want know your sheriff. Let's get our constitutional sheriff. If they're not, they can piss up rope. Know your people.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was a good thing you said today because of the sheriff and being the high office. Something you said over on Liberty Warrior Network, Travis, was crazy because I can't remember exactly what you said, but it's basically the sheriff is the only person that's going to have your back if this keeps progressing. And it's 100% correct.
That's right.
Yeah, it has to be the high sheriff of the county.
Mr. Tate
the sheriff of the county is the one you want to talk to. No other sheriffs. It has to be the high sheriff that runs the whole county. That's the guy that calls all the shots.
What's the guy's name in the bottom left, the restaurant owner? What he said.
The high sheriff, they may say it's different, but the guy that's in charge of all the sheriffs in the county is the guy you want to talk to.
Hey.
Joyce Bank, I'll try to come back if they'll have me.
My mouth is full, but my dad is trying to talk. Thank you.
She's a hard ass.
No, it's your show.
It is my show, but it's an open platform.
But whenever you talk, people need to respect you as they do others.
That they do. It's okay. She gets mad when somebody's talking over me. Know your sheriff. Make sure he's taking care of his business. And get involved locally. That's the only way we're ever going to fix things. Am I right, Hawkeye? Hawkeye.
You got me muted.
No, I didn't mean to mute you. I'm sorry, but
okay. So you hit the nail on the head, and you've got to find. You're not the island in your community. There are like-minded people that are in your community that support your positions, and you need to find those. You need to support them. You need to go to those lunches and meet your congressman, meet your local representatives. You need to do that because they will listen to you, because all you got to do is get 5 people, 10 people like-minded to feel like you, and pretty soon you've got a ball to start rolling. But if you don't get that ball rolling, then you are the island in that area. I'll give you some really good anecdotal information. I ran for city council in 2014, which was 2 years before Trump ran. And that's when the Tea Party, now I'm 64 years old. That's when the Tea Party really took off. And that was another big movement. And it was a great movement. But the Democrats looked at that and they took a picture of one guy holding a swastika at a rally. And all of a sudden it made the whole Tea Party look like they were Nazis. Okay. So I had to fight that. Okay. Not only did I have to fight that, but I'm in a blue community. So the Koch brothers came in and actually started putting money into our city council race. It was just the most bizarre thing in the world. And I, luckily, as a business owner, I knew a bunch of the radio stations. So I got a lot of free advertising on the radio stations. I had all the Republican and Democrats. Everybody was coming to my restaurant. And with this whole Koch brother thing going on, I would go try to knock on doors and I'd have people slam the door on my face because they said, "You're going with the Koch brothers." I didn't even get a penny from the Koch brothers. I was funding my whole campaign. And a city council campaign, you don't think there's that much money involved, but I spent about $7,000 of my own dollars in it. Plus I got matching funds from the community. Well, that's a lot of money. It'll buy bumper stickers. It'll buy just about anything you want. Okay.
Yeah.
So I gotta pull this out. Okay, here was my platform, guys. My platform was to serve. It was to serve my community. To serve my community. Okay.
Put it back up there. There you go. Turn it over.
Okay.
It's backwards. Okay.
Okay. So my whole platform was to serve my community. That's what I told them. My platform was very conservative, but I had some really progressive ideas on a lot of things. Like we were getting a lot of young kids that didn't have places to go during the day after school. So I wanted to have some youth centers that we could build so that the kids wouldn't have to be, hanging out at one of the parks or, getting into trouble. I had a pretty good, I had a pretty good platform, and, it's just when people started slamming the door in my faces, it just made me stronger, and it made me want to do it more. And that's where everybody's got to be. We've got to be together because who is this right here? Tennessee, you were talking about how the parties are polarized, but the Republican Party is split.
Yes.
We've got some people that want to be kinetic, and we want some people to really push it from within. And being kinetic isn't going to help anything. But you can, if you can start pushing it from within, you're going to find that doors are going to be open to you. Things are going to start happening. I mean, we now have 2 senators that are Republican. I've got a Republican governor. I've got of the 6 representatives in our state, 4 of them are Republicans. That wasn't even close to that 15 years ago. So, but my area is still blue. But when Trump ran, Iowa went for Trump, but the lady that ran in our district, she had been trying to run for the past 6 elections. She actually won. I'm sure you saw her on TV, but she won by 6 votes. 6 votes over 250,000. And that was the one Nancy Pelosi was gonna override the election, and you know that's a whole nother story. But the worst thing that we can do as a collective is not to vote, because we're getting to the point where people are getting so pissed off that they think that our vote doesn't count. I know what the vote doesn't count means, because I had to fight that 15 years ago. You know, I would go to farmers and people that hadn't voted in 10 elections, and I had to convince them that getting into the election and voting for Trump was the right thing to do. Regardless, you know, I'm like over here. I hated some of the things Trump said, but I agreed with almost every one of his political positions, you know, and that's what it's about. I don't have to like any of you, but if you represent what I believe, I would vote for you. Okay. So, you know, I'll get off my soapbox, but, you know, on day 16 had some incredible points, and she's really Travis, she's really the one that brought me on the panel, because I haven't heard somebody on a panel that I was so like-minded. And that really, it's like, okay, here we go. Now let's get the ball rolling. You know,
I'm so happy you called in.
I mean, there's 2 of us. All we got to do is get the ball rolling. You know, find out. Do you guys all know who? Can you name one of your city council people? Any of you?
No, I moved
okay.
right along.
Okay, I'll give it to you. Can any of you name one of your board of supervisors? Okay, there we go. Do you know who your congressman is? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I write them often. Yes.
Okay. Do you and I'm sure you know who your senators are. We know who our president is now. You know, but if you don't know these, if you can't answer those questions I just gave you, then you need to get a little skin in the game and get started and get the ball rolling.
Agreed.
Because you know, if you don't know your city council people, I've got 6 city councilmen, and 4 of the city councilmen are Republicans. Excuse me. 4 of them are Democrats, and 2 of them call themselves Republicans. And my city council is they take TIF money from the state government. They're taking a lot of money. I'm all about being a fiscal conservative, you know, and a lot of this stuff I just don't appreciate, you know. And that's why I ran for city council, and that's why as boring as shit as it is, that's why I watch my city council meetings. Because I don't know, it might affect my business. It might affect, now my kids are all grown, but it might affect my grandkids someday. You know, it might affect your guys' kids. You know, that's all important to me. Writing a little blurb in a chat on YouTube is just talking to the choir. It's just preaching to the choir. Okay. So what you got to do, you got to find those people that aren't part of the choir, and you got to change their minds, because they're just waiting for you to come and change their minds.
Grassroots movements.
And that's what it's all about. And there I am on my soapbox again. And you know, it's a bitch being in front of a television set talking to the League of Women Voters, and all of a sudden they start asking you questions like, well, are you taking Are you taking money from the Koch brothers? What? Okay, number one, what does that have to do with anything? Number two, no, you know, and it's like, what the shit, you know? I mean, I had a lady that was part of our local government. She was part of the Parks and Rec Department. She was the head of the Parks and Rec Department. And she emailed me and told me that because I was running for city council and I was against a lot of the policies that the city had going at the time, that she was going to make sure that there was no events at my restaurant with the city ever again. Now I kept that. I kept that email, and I took it to my mayor, and I said, "What do you have to say about this? This is your person, you know." And what do you have to say about this? I sat in his front room at his house, and I said, "This is my city government, and they're telling me that they're not going to give me any business ever again because I'm running for city council." Now, how do you think that made me feel? I mean, that pissed me off. And then he had the nerve to say, "Well, you're part of that Koch brother thing." And I got up and I said, "I never want to talk to you again. And I hope your ass gets taken out of this city on a rail." And then I walked outside and I just put a big smile on and I let it roll off my back. But I still have that friggin' email. It still pisses me off. And I'll tell you guys, when I tell you to do this, politics is a friggin' contact sport.
So,
you know,
hang on. Hawkeye, did you see the private chat?
I did.
Okay.
What would they like?
No, the private chat. Read it.
Private chat. Let me get the private.
Only people on the panel. Look, I got to get up in 3 hours, so yeah, maybe 4. I appreciate you guys coming on. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Hey, hold on just a second.
Man. Y'all stay safe. Keep it up, bud.
Good night, Travis.
Hold on just a second. Let me put this in private chat.
Fair enough.
There you go on day 16.
Thank you. Thank you very
Travis,
much.
thanks for having me on,
Travis,
man. You got a good channel. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Travis.
Cam Tube out, man.
I ain't nobody. I'm just fucking toothless alcoholic that likes to talk about a lot of stuff.
Well, if anybody wants to do Bible studies with me, my channel's Cam Tube, like I told you. After losing my bigger channel that was monetized doing politics, I'm with real quick, and I'll shut up. Hawkeye. I like Hawkeye. I'm running for city. I'm going to run county councilman in 2024, and I've been getting in the community. And he's dead right. He's dead right. You have to get involved in these grassroots movements. Yes, I have a YouTube channel, but the internet is the future, right? If you really want to get people to hear stuff, it is a good thing to do it this way. But you also have to have your feet in the fire somewhere. So, Hawkeye, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing what you did in your area. Try it again, because I'll be doing it with you, bud. And Travis, man, I just love seeing you out here doing what you do. You got some good people in the chats too, man. You've got a very good following. You're an honest guy. I don't care if you're an alcoholic. God does the judging, not me, bud. And
Amen.
And if people want to do Bible studies with me, it's CamTube. Like you have it. It's what you see on my picture, Cam, capital K A M, capital T U B E, all one word, CamTube. And hopefully I can come on here with you again some other time.
Hell yeah. I appreciate you guys. I thought we had a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Right.
I hope you guys call in again.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. And
See you
on
now.
day 16 is the most smartest person and the kindest woman I've ever met. She is very intelligent. She
Love you,
she's way
Travis.
smarter than I am. Thank you for coming on my show.
I'll second that. See you guys.
Night,
Thanks,
night,
man.
everybody.
All right. Well, I'm going to say a little prayer because I do believe in God. My relationship with God is between me and God. So the hater can kiss that little brown spot and on my ass. Yep, had too much to drink. Come get me. I don't care. It's about feeling what is important. So I got this. Lord, protect our people. All of them. They don't know. We don't know from right. We don't know right from wrong. Yep, it's a rough time, Lord. Just protect our people. That's all I have. That's all I have. Protect our people. It's been such a devastating 2 years. All we need is truth. That's all we want. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Know your neighbor. Love your neighbor. And help your neighbor. Come on. I'm that guy. I'll help anybody. No kidding. You think I won't help my neighbor? All you gotta do is call my neighbor. Good night, guys. I love y'all. Are you okay?
No,
Okay, tell me why you're not okay.
I told you. I sent you a message.
Why I didn't see your message?
I'm gonna be real blunt. I'm gonna be real honest.
Okay.
The other night, driving home, you know, when you talked to Joey for so long on the phone, and
Okay, so we're going back to something that was.
no, I'm not bringing up Mom.
No. I'm
No,
asking time frame.
Left the bar.
Okay.
Okay. I don't mind you being on the phone with Joy. Hang it up.
Done.
It's fun part of that. You gotta put your power into it. Okay. I don't mind that. I do mind. Who is it?
Listen, man.
Come in.
Tell you have no idea. This is what our
Well, then
normal.
I'll answer it and I'll tell her that
Okay.
it's my last motherfucking
Okay.
night.
Okay. So. Let me turn my fucking headset off. I don't know where my headset is.
She hung up, but I'm gonna call her back just to let her know I'm done. I'll call back.
Yeah, turn the headset off.
But hello?
Harry, you're still online. Tell the other thing off. Everybody can hear you guys.
We're online.